Why, hello. This is Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. Continuing my tradition of not really having a single thing that I do on this channel uh, anymore. A continuing crisis of identity, except it's not really a crisis, it's a celebration of non-identity. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, I've played a video game once before on this channel. That was when I did the symbolic commentary for Little Nightmares, and I do eventually intend on doing something for Little Nightmares too. But I just had the strangest notion that I wanted to try doing this because I have, in fact, gotten over it with Bennett Foddy twice before. It might be three. I think it's three times, actually. Obviously, you have no good reason to believe me, which is why I'm going to try to get over it a fourth time. And you're all going to come with me on this journey, and it's going to be a beautiful thing. And that's what we're going to do today. So hopefully my very, very, very shoddy recording equipment and methods will, hopefully it'll all work out. Hopefully it'll all come together and make something that is at least tolerable to watch. So, excuse me. Let's get into it. I've turned off the narration for this game because really, you're not going to be getting over it with Bennett Foddy. Today, you're going to get over it with Michael Pierce. Isn't that a delightful thing? So you'll just have me as your commentary, and off we go. I do recommend this game, which is probably a strange thing. Here's the thing about this game. Also, if you have no idea what's going on, that's par for the course. If you're confused why there is a man in a cauldron with a hammer who looks vaguely like Vladimir Putin or something, woo! You know, I really don't know even what I'm going to talk about while doing this commentary, while we get over it. I know like a million people have done this game before. I don't know what has overcome me that I thought that this is the content that you crave from Michael Pierce in his apparent retirement from YouTube. That's not actually true, but I joke with myself that that's the case. Anyway, I guess I might as well talk about why I like this game. I actually consider this game a genuine masterpiece. It is a masterpiece. I legitimately think it is art, this game. It's just beautiful, and the music is also beautiful. It's also a little loud, and I don't want it to distract from me. So I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. Apply. Resume. This game is beautiful, and as it might sound odd, but I think of this, I have no idea what type the guy who made the game. I think his name is in fact Bennett Foddy, but that might just be a pen name. I don't know. But the guy who made the game, he normally does this like commentary track over it, which is very funny and is also really quite brilliant. And I think of this game, as odd as it may sound, as it probably isn't, but I think of it as an ISTP game. And my reasoning for that is because okay, hold on, come on. All right, we're gonna have to do it this way. My reasoning for that is because, like you see right now, this game requires a tremendous amount of dexterity and just getting used to the controls. It is intentionally trying to frustrate you. And it really does require genuine skill. Now, obviously, it's the kind of skill that is, what am I talking about? The precision of a surgeon is required. So if you ever need surgery, you can see that I'm your man as I skillfully navigate. Come on. Skillfully navigate this chimney. Ah, no! Oh, no. See, the thing I like about this game is because the name of the game... all right, well, I guess that's how this playthrough is going to go. The name of the game is Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, which is brilliant because the game is meant to be incredibly frustrating. And it has the gall to be frustrating not because, well, there are some pranks in here, no joke. Wow, I'm having trouble on this one. It's probably because I'm talking while I'm doing it. But I like it because, I originally just watched people play it because I was like, ah, man, this is probably... Anyone who has grown up playing video games will understand that there's something just brilliant about this game, whether you like it or not. Because I remember as a kid, like anyone who grew up playing video games knows that feeling, of having a game that is just absurdly hard, or a part of a game that is absurdly hard. And there's like a whole psychology to it of that feeling of just wanting to get to the next part. And he really taps into that with this game, with the fact that you can always fail and fall down a tremendous amount. But once you get the hang of it, it took me next to no time to get up here. For some people, it takes a long time to get used to it. But as my father would say, my INTP father would joke and say that video games are just behavior modification. That is all they are. They are teaching you how to, they're teaching you how to modify very specific reflexes in your behavior, and they reward you with visual, audio stimuli and so forth, and it's just a very basic behavior modification. I guess a lot of things are just behavior modification, but it's very funny when he says it, I assure you. Oh my gosh, I didn't think that would work. Woo! All right. So now that we're up at this point, and I'm sorry if this commentary is kind of disjointed and not as elegant as I'd like, but I was originally going to do a ramble video today, a ramble video about typology. And I sat down to do it, and it was like all my power of speech vanished. I don't know why this happens. Oh, yep, there we go. I don't know why this happens, but it just does. And I was like, okay, well, I feel like I want to record something. So what should I do? And then I just had the notion of I'll play another video game because that'd be kind of relaxing. And maybe I'll talk a bit more. Maybe I'll talk a bit more later about why I think that's the case. But I think the reason I wanted to do this is because I think I'll be able to do it in one session. We'll see if I eat my words on that. I have a lot of trouble near the very end, and sometimes in this middle part, especially since I'm talking while doing it. But I think another reason I wanted to do this is because strangely enough, I find the game kind of relaxing, because when I first decided, you know what, I want to get over it with Bennett Foddy, and I knew from watching, YouTubers like Markiplier and stuff, like he famously threw a chair because he was so frustrated and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, clearly, if I am going to get over it with Bennett Foddy, I'm going to have to be cool as a cucumber. And basically, I'm just going to have to accept that at any point, I could fail miserably, like that point right there. Because if you fall from there, you fall pretty darn far. I can't remember how. Oh, yeah, I think you fall back to the slide. And in fact, this whole section with the rocks is, I'm going to have to be a little careful here. But I just knew that, all right, I'm just going to have to regard this as, basically, it truly teaches you how to focus on the journey and not on the ending. I know that probably sounds cheesy. And the ending is still important. Whoop, that was a dumb idea. Oh, wait, was it a dumb idea? Oh, yep, it was a dumb idea. All right. So actually continuing on that thought, I was just having. I actually can talk a bit about Nietzsche when playing this game, which I was not thinking of when I started playing it, but I actually think this is very important because Nietzsche has that concept, right, of the eternal recurrence. And the whole idea of that concept is what if you you know, what if some day or night a demon, a neutral spirit were to come to you and say, that instead of, going to heaven for eternity, effectively, you're just going to live the life that you've already lived all the way up to this moment and everything after this moment until your death. And you just live that same thing over and over again for all of eternity with nothing changed. And would you celebrate that because you love your life and you love everything about your life? You've become to enjoy everything about your life, including the terrible suffering you've gone through, because you see, crap. And the failures, like that failure right there, right? Are you well disposed to everything, to every part of your life? Kind of like us climbing this mountain, where it's like, do you regard the things that happen to you in your life as merely obstacles that you hate, and you think that life would be better without them? Life would be more worthwhile without them, without you having to go through this, that, or the other thing. Or have you come to see your life as like a song, as like a symphony, and every part of the symphony is in its own way equally beautiful? You just have to know how to appreciate the music. And that's kind of like this game. Oh, whoops, whoop. Oh, well, okay. Could have been a lot worse. Whee! That was very foolish of me to do that. Who knows how long I'm going to be stuck on this part. But, I don't mind it because I'm with friends in spirit. Obviously, I'm not physically there with you, but I'd like to think in this moment that it's as though I am with you, dear viewer. We are getting over it together with Bennett Foddy. And we're just kind of climbing up this mountain together with some light jazz music and crazy sounds. And I think that's the real point of the game. And it's beautiful. There's other things about it. I mean, I feel it. Well, actually, let me finish my thought about Nietzsche and eternal recurrence, because that's very important to me. The idea of being able to become reconciled with your own life in all of its aspects, what that requires is that you become able to see even your failures as important parts of the story, that the story wouldn't be your story without them, even though they didn't have to happen, right? Because that's sort of a key thing, I think. Oh, no! Oh, no! Oh, that could have been really bad. So this, right here is a good point to talk, actually. Because now I'm going to have to do a whole bunch over again, though I might actually do it a bit different. Let's see. Oh, crap. See, here's the thing. I don't want to fall all the way down, right? I still have a sense of value here in the Nietzschean sense. I want to get up the mountain. If I didn't want to get up the mountain, then what would I be playing the video game for, right? You have to have something that you're trying to do. And maybe I don't want to get up the mountain. Maybe you want to do something else, and we can quibble about whether, there are universal moral judgments that everyone should want to get up the mountain. And we could go on about that. And I may even as I say it, there's a part of me that says, I'm almost inclined, quite contrary to Nietzsche, to say, yeah, no, I think everyone should try to, quote, get up the mountain, whatever that means. But maybe it'll look differently for people. But the point being, that is the goal. So there is this sense of that it contextualizes things. It makes it so that falling down the mountain is painful and going up the mountain is enjoyable rather than the other way around, right? And that is, but there we go. It changes what I enjoy and what I don't enjoy about this experience. And yet the key idea is being able to experience both, the fact that I laugh. And I can't prove this to you, but the laughing is genuine. And I guess maybe it would just be better for me to not, now that I've reassured you of that, it's going to sound fake, whatever, I can't change that. But I assure you it is genuine, because I'm just well, there we go. That sucks. And in real life, right, when you really suffer something, especially for the first time, you're almost certainly not going to laugh. And if you do laugh, that's only to hide the genuine pain. So it's a little unfair to say that, oh, you just laugh it off. It's much easier to do that. I probably wouldn't be laughing. Well, maybe I would be laughing if I were doing this for the first time. All right. Woo! There we go. So, hey, see, here we are. We're right back where we were. And here's the thing. With this game, in my view, the game is only truly beaten when you get the golden cauldron. And even then, it's questionable. The golden cauldron, if I recall correctly, is what you get when you climb the mountain 50 times, I believe. And your cauldron supposedly slowly turns gold every time. It turns a little bit more gold every time that you complete the journey. So, of course, I'm just a little pipsqueak who, if I recall correctly, in fact, I do have record because I took pictures I did like screenshot every time that I did it because I was gloating to my father because he has also played this game. And I was like, oh no! Oh, it's so painful. I was gloating to my dad that I had beaten this game. And that I had beaten it more than once. Because once you beat it the first time, it becomes relatively easier, I say, even though I'm still on 16 minutes doing this. Now, to be fair, it took me a fair bit of time to beat it both times. I think the first time it was hours, not that I did it all in one go. But anyway, back to Nietzsche. With the Nietzschean point, being able to, to accept every part of the journey, right? Because I knew going in that that's what I was going to have to do. I was going to have to say, if I sit here and say to myself that orange hell, which is what people refer to it as, right? That rocky part where you gotta kind of hop yourself up from where the orange was sitting on the desk. If you view that as like, this part of the game, right? Like, I hate this part. If you view it that way, then yeah, it will be hell. It will be your own personal hell. And it will be hell every time that you have to do it. And you'll just go through the whole thing thinking to yourself, man, I could be at some part that I find fun because I'm really good at doing it. But if you want to get through the game and have it be an enjoyable and, as I say, and actually a relaxing experience, you have to be able to look at every single part of the game as having its own beauty, so that every moment that you're playing the game, you're like, oh, it's this moment, so that you kind of have to forget about the fact that you are climbing the mountain, even though you can't actually forget that because otherwise you wouldn't climb the mountain, which is what I was trying to get at with my rambling about values. Oh no! All right, well. Oh, it's playing some kind of polka music or something. Anyway, I'll probably get back to some more Nietzsche in a minute. But it is interesting that okay, yeah, it's playing this song. Yeah, I'll get into this. Sorry if I'm leaving certain points unfinished. That's just how this is going to go, I'm afraid. Which is kind of like the game itself, because as I'm sure you've noticed, long before, the game is not really a mountain. I mean, it is a mountain. But really what it is it's a bunch of game assets. Just random, 2.5 dimension, by which I mean it's 3 dimension, or 2 dimension because it's a side scroller, but it's 3-dimensional objects. Anyway, it's a bunch of junk, right? You're climbing over a bunch of random junk, which is very funny to me. Like, look at this. I'm in an IKEA right now, like an IKEA that got hit by a snowmower. I don't even know what that is. I was trying to say snowmobile and realized I meant a snow blower, and then I don't know what I meant to say. Anyway, you're climbing over a bunch of junk, right? which is kind of our modern existence, or I should say our quote postmodern existence. That's sort of the buzzword that's been going around a lot. And I have, for one, have just kind of come to see postmodernism as it's partly what this game is. This game is about trying to find, it's almost like postmodernism or something, where it's the sense of living in a society that is full of plastic and it's just full of like junk. And we have so much history behind us, right? Nietzsche talks about this. He talks about it in, well, throughout his works, but especially in on the use and abuse of history. I can't remember. I think Use and Abuse of History for Life, I believe is what it's called. I remember the contents better than I do the title. But in there, he talks about the, quote, historical sense and the idea of the people of his time. You know, they're so focused on accumulating more and more information about the past, but they're not doing anything to give themselves any kind of coherent culture of their own. And so they're kind of lost in this sea of unconnected ideas, and there's nothing that's sort of bringing it together and making it coherent. Whoop. And it's very much like this notion of feeling, I think that's a very modern or postmodern feeling, of feeling like you're in like this junkyard and you're surrounded by all this stuff, any particular thing of which could be like a beautiful treasure. Like it's only trash because it's out of place in a way. Oh my gosh. And there isn't any unifying aesthetic, right? There isn't a single culture or a history to it. You know, we don't really have that anymore. We're all very, man, this is going to be harder than I thought. Harder than I remember. Clearly, I need to figure out a new... Clearly, I need to figure out a new strategy. And clearly, going over like that is not working. See, I've got a lot of the beginning part of this pretty much down to instinct, but evidently, that part I do not have down. Okay. But yeah, like, look at this stuff. It's plastic. It's plastic and fake wood and probably fake plants and a satellite dish. I mean, and that's kind of what we're surrounded by, and yet it's trying to figure out how to make meaning out of that. You know, we have at our disposal the cultural history and products of millennia of, you know, since humans started writing things down. You know, we have access, and we know that we only have a fraction of everything that has been produced, you know, because archaeology is still a thing going on. Excuse me. And so, but we have, oh, wait, that's Diogenes. I'm so stupid. You see where my hammer is pointing? See, that is another reason why this is an ISTP game, everybody, because I do agree that Diogenes was the great ISTP philosopher, and he famously lived in a giant vase or like a wine urn or something. And so the fact that you are in a cauldron and are climbing this hill with your hammer is very Diogenes-like. And so it's one of the reasons I feel like I knew that, but it's only just seeing that painting hanging there I remembered it, because again, like I said, I do think of Diogenes as sort of like the great stereotypical ISTP philosopher, you know, says what he thinks is very charismatic, but in this very kind of rough and ready way. And that's kind of how it is with Bennett Foddy, right? He has this very dark sense of humor as he's narrating what's going on. And, you know, Diogenes, what he would do is, or at least according to reports, is he would go about in the market, I believe this was Diogenes, he would go about in the marketplace with a lit lantern in the middle of the day, and as though he was like lost, right? And it was a performance, right? He was basically a performance artist. He got up to all kinds of crazy shenanigans. Thanks for the music. It warms my cold heart. But yeah, he would go around in the marketplace with this lit lantern as though he was lost and looking for stuff. And, I think the meaning was fairly clear. He was saying our society here in post-Socratic Athens is lost. And I think he would say something along the lines of, I am searching for a wise man or a good man or something. There's something very profound in that even though I was just saying we're in this uniquely postmodern condition, we are in the sense of just being surrounded by junk, right? Because of the invention of plastic and because of all of the economic forces that have allowed for that to happen, right? Because this is a side note. You could go back in time and tell them how to make plastic, like what the chemical composition of plastic is and all of this stuff, right? And they could believe you, right? They could totally believe you and be like, okay, that makes sense. But how are you going to make it, right? Like, how are you going to organize the forces and get the resources that are necessary to build, like, the machinery and all the other materials, the metals? Man, that was like a weird tooth thing up there. How are you going to get all that stuff together to actually build it, right? You need all these social economic forces to build things. It's not just as simple as knowing how to do it, right? And it really that really is the case with everything. So, I mean, it's really quite remarkable that we have the infrastructure that we do that is capable of pulling this kind of stuff off, and really wouldn't want to lose it, but c'est la vie, I suppose. Anyway, so you're climbing a mountain of trash and you're going through see, there's Diogenes again. There he is again. He keeps cropping up. I'm just, you got to stop and actually look at things and not get so focused on climbing over the mountain, You gotta take in, like, what's this? This is like a chair, and this is like an IKEA lantern or lamp. I said lantern. Some plastic red chairs. Excuse me. Some kind of ugly looking chairs. Up there, something that looks like it was probably an asset in Half-Life 2. I'm looking at that thing there because it's just like a busted, beaten old wooden thing that Gordon Freeman would shoot up with his gun. I love Half-Life, by the way, just as a side note. I don't know what it is. I just love Half-Life 2. I love Half-Life, but I love Half-Life 2. They're never going to, there really isn't, I don't have any hope for that series. I mean, even with Half-Life Alyx. Because I think the problem is that what I like about Half-Life 2 is what I myself have read into it that isn't actually there, because Gordon Freeman's a silent protagonist, so I can just kind of make him whatever character I want. And which I really enjoy. I really like that, and I like the aesthetic of it. But anyway, junk. We live in a society that is full of junk, and we are trying to figure out how to make the most of it, how to make something, because the economic, system that we have now is just not conducive to, the kind of stuff that was common fare before is luxury items now. Whereas the kind of stuff that back then only the kings would have had is, you can get it for $5 at a flea market because it's just plastic. It's never going to go away. It's everywhere. And that's the society we live in now, of this kind of overabundance, and it doesn't make us any happier. Where was I going with this? I don't even really know where I was going with it, because I actually don't really know what the answer is to this whole, we live in a society that's full of junk. Because I guess what the only other thing I wanted to say was that I think it's part of why I have a certain appreciation for Andy Warhol, because one interpretation of Andy Warhol anyway, and I'm no expert, but is that he understood, the postmodern condition that we were really kind of entering into. And he was like, okay, how do we find beauty in this, in like mass production and stuff like that? How do we get something out of that? It's very interesting. I think there's also just sort of a bit of a cynical side to Andy Warhol, but not as much as I think some people might suspect. I do think he's an INFP, and I think he's a pretty genuine INFP. But again, I'm no expert. It's not like I met the guy. Ah! Okay. Ugh. Sorry, I will not. I will try to refrain from making those noises. I will let Diogenes here do it for me. Woo! Well, all right. So another thing I wanted to talk about is the idea of, the things that happen to you in your life, like in this game. See how many times I've fallen down that orange hell, right? I think as humans, we often get we get a sense of, here's how the story of my life is supposed to go. And if it doesn't go that way, then we're liable to think, well, we feel like that ideal version was stolen from us. When in fact, for all you know, you're actually living out a superior story if you're willing to make it that. And it may not look like what you thought it was going to look like. Whoa. Because you are not the sole person making the script. You have to contend with, other people for one thing, and you can't control what they do. And then, God and fate, or whatever you want to call things like that. Okay, I feel like I'm regressing here. Also, someone has texted me, how dare they? I'm recording. I'm getting over it with Bennett Foddy. Oh, okay. I can get back to that. Amanda, if you ever watch this, you were the one who texted me and interrupted me while I was doing this. So there you go. But yeah, I think we have a sense of, here is how my life should go. And when it doesn't go that way, then there's the tendency of thinking, okay, I've failed, and there's nothing that can be done, that the opportunity has been lost forever. There's nothing, there's no redemption for this. And even, in some sense, even using the term redemption, while I do think it's technically correct, I think it can give the wrong idea. Because redemption still keeps the idea that you had failed before, because you did. But failure is part of any good story. Wow, I've never been over here before. What the heck? I don't know why I've never been over here. What's over here? Hold on. Wait. Yeah! Oh, okay. You don't have to tell me twice. All right. Okay, well, wait, what's that thing up there? Sorry, everybody. I'll get back to my very profound insights in a moment. This is suddenly very important to me. All right, here, we're just gonna, whee! Okay, that's some kind of like what is that? Someone get a screenshot of that and tell me what it is. It's some kind of weird, I have no idea what that is. Anyway, woo! And of course, now I've forgotten what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, your life doesn't go the way you want, or the way you imagined. And one of the most important things I feel like I learned from Nietzsche is a new understanding of redemption, which I was talking about a minute ago. Because, what's the right way of putting it? Yeah, there we go. All right, what is the best way of putting it? Well, it kind of ties into what I was talking about before with all the junk. How do you redeem all this junk? We have all this junk. We have all these resources. But what are we going to do with it? What are we going to build out of it? That, could be beautiful and good, dare I even say. It's this notion of the contingencies of life, because that's sort of the interesting thing, is that you can fail, and it's not even a matter of saying, aha, I thought my destiny was this, but I was mistaken. Really, my destiny was this. This was the plan all along. And I think there's benefit to that, and I actually tend to think that way. But at the same time, I don't know if that's always how it goes. As many of you know, I'm a religious fellow, crazy Christian fellow. So I have certain commitments I've made in my own thinking. But woo! But even setting that aside, it's like, it's tempting. One could, try to think in terms of destiny, but even if it wasn't destiny, which I think is much closer to the idea that Nietzsche had, even though you have the eternal recurrence idea, there's still this sense with Nietzsche of coming to grips with chance and contingency. And this idea of saying, it doesn't matter what happens to me. It doesn't matter what fate throws at me. I will be able to conquer it. I will be able to turn it and reinterpret it in such a way that it will be to my advantage. So, and that kind of taps into the junk idea that, you have the, Nietzsche talks about, the ultimate state is to become like a child, which is kind of like something Jesus said. Though Nietzsche elaborates on, you have to become like a child because the child is innocent and the child is debt-free and the child plays with things, plays with ideas and with like rocks and pebbles and just things that the child finds by happenstance and comes up with reasons for them and fits them into a work of art. And the work of art is your life. And so you have to be able to take the things that happen to you, and rather than say, because I think regardless of whether one is an atheist, as Nietzsche would say, because Nietzsche would say, how would he put it? He said, we still have to vanquish the shadows of God, which if you're a religious person, you can reinterpret that in another way. But, many people who are atheists, it's not just as simple a matter, that I'll put it this way. You can even take the atheism part out of it. If you're trying to leave behind a way of thinking that you were raised with, right? It's never as simple a matter as just saying, I no longer think this way before, or I no longer think this way anymore. Because the way that you think is, it's built into, or it's embedded itself in how you act. And there's all kinds of subtle philosophical prejudgments that you don't even realize that you do in fact make, and that are tied in with the way you were raised. So you may consciously say, no, I don't believe that anymore. And you may say all manner of things to refute it. Woo! But that doesn't mean that you've actually overcome it. And one could even argue that you never can, because it's part of you. What you have to do instead is figure out how to repurpose it in some sense. Look at this level. He's repurposed all of this junk and made it into this mountain, into this video game. Man. It's poetic, isn't it, that I keep falling down there? Yeah, you repurpose, all this stuff is just totally random, and yet it contributes to this game, to making this the particular experience that it is. And it's the same thing with the contingencies of one's life. Things happen to you, And I think kind of an idea that Nietzsche had was being able to live in such a way and make use of the things that life gives to you, the lemons that life gives to you, in such a way that there ends up being no real difference between these things having been destiny, because you made such use of them, such perfect use of them that, oh, it was destiny. Like, you can't tell the difference between it being just random chance and it being destiny because it's so natural for you. And there's a lot of things like that. I've found it to be a very valuable way of thinking and being able to get over things easier, in a way that is healthy anyway. Come on. Wah! All right, there we go. Yeah, you and me both, pal. Woo! So yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. You know what? Let's go ahead and we're going to have quiet time now. We're going to have just a brief quiet time because I would like to show you the rest of this level. Well, I mean, this is the only level, but... All right, well, what's over here? Ah, no! Woo! I kind of want to see what's over here. But yeah, nope, okay, you can't grab hold of the boy's head. I suppose that's fair. Oh, all right, well, whee! All right, we're going to take a couple more shots at it, but it has been like 40 minutes of trying to get over it with Michael Pierce, so we might have to call it wraps. So maybe I'll have a sequel, Maybe I'll do a sequel, because I'm kind of enjoying this. Woo! But yeah, to be able to make things that happen by mere chance. There's a few places, particularly in Zarathustra, where Nietzsche talks about dice rolls. He talks about lucky dice rolls and making use of dice rolls. And I think it's this idea of it actually, a long time ago I did, in like my undergraduate, I was part of an improv comedy group, which was actually very instructive. Because one of the things it teaches you is precisely this form of creativity, of improvisation, of being able to take things that happen seemingly just by total chance, by happenstance, and saying, I will take this and I will turn it into something. I will turn it and make it go over this way. And I will admit that for those of you, presumably quite a few of you, who watched my stuff because of typology, I do think that this is a N-I-F-I sort of thing, particularly an N-I thing, right? Because you'll notice the way I'm talking about it is, you're given something externally, but then to be able to take that and turn it into something else, right? Because there's two ways you could do that. One way would be to say, well, I'm going to look at the thing, quote, as it were, in itself, and figure out, okay, well, what is this thing essentially, and how do I, turn it into that thing, actualize its fullness in that sense. But there's also the sense, and that would be, I think, a more extroverted process there, right? Because you would be trying to say, well, it depends, because the NI portion of it, that would be where you take the random object and you attribute to it something, and you may think that what you're attributing to it is essential to it, and perhaps you're right, but that's not how you arrived at it. You arrived at it by a subjective process. Crud. All right. I need a better way to go about this. I'm trying to remember how I did this before. Let's see here. No. Okay, well, I could always hop myself up. Woo! Nope. Ah, all right. Well, so the hopping is not the way to go, apparently. See, I could have sworn there was a way that I was able to do it before. All right. Woo! All right, there we go. I was saying something very profound a minute ago. All right, we're going to take one more shot at this before I think I'm going to need a break. You know. Oh, what is that? Is that a... Oh, it's a mini golf thing. Ah, okay. It's a mini golf pad. I'm looking at that green snaky thing down there. We got a pumpkin and a ball. Oh, come on. All right. Let me think. What else on this final foray? Woo. Okay. Woo. Yeah, that idea of being able to, yeah, improv, sorry, an improv comedy. You have to get used to taking things that are seemingly just, I mean, and almost certainly are just totally random chance and figuring out how to make use of them to create a scene. And then I started talking about NI and was saying that, you know, NI, I think it takes subjective material. It may not even realize that's what it's doing, but the subjective material will appear to it so clearly that it can often mistake it for objective material. And it will read into things. In some sense, NI is like an ultimate reading into function. I mean, I suppose you could say that intuition in general is like that, but I think NI is especially like that, where it can take anything at its best or at its worst, right? I mean. And it can interpret its own ideas onto it. You know, I couldn't think of a better way for this video to end. So I will take my own advice and say, you know what? I'm going to regard that as an act of God that has made this video is a perfect way to end this little video. Suddenly, and with me falling from a great height. Thank you so much for coming with me on this journey of failing to get over it with Michael Pierce and Bennett Foddy. I may or may not do another one of these, but I just have a strange desire to record myself playing some video games. So I might do a few others because I'm rather enjoying this. It's just kind of relaxing and it's something very different. And I don't know, see what y'all think. So, all right, take care, y'all. I'm gonna stop the recording now. Or let me get my other thing here so everything's lined up. And